Good morning. If anybody cannot hear me, let me know. Basically, what I'd like to do this morning for all of you is to explain a little bit about the Lincoln family here in the colonies, or as most of all you like to say, as America. The family first came here in the year of our Lord 1637. So it was my many great-grandfathers. I am an 11th generation Lincoln here in the United States, from the very first Lincoln for this family who's come here. As far as my relationship to Abraham Lincoln, I am a third cousin. We both share the same great-grandfather. And that great-grandfather is buried just right up the road a little bit, right outside Reading, Pennsylvania. Reading, however you want to say it. And if anybody is familiar with the Daniel Boone farm, it's very in close proximity. In fact, the Boones and the Lincolns did a lot of marrying together. And most everybody here probably heard that, and I'm going to watch how I say this to you. President Lincoln's grandfather was Abraham Lincoln. That's how he got his name, Abraham. But what I was surprised to find out is most people do not know how Abraham Lincoln got to Kentucky, or why he went to Kentucky. Well, let me give you a little bit of genealogy, so you know where I'm at and where I'm not at. Abraham Lincoln, the president, and everybody knows who his father was, Thomas Lincoln. Thomas's father was Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln's father was John Lincoln. John Lincoln, he's like all the other Lincolns, had multiple brothers and sisters. We're only going to concentrate on two. John Lincoln's one brother was Mordecai Lincoln. And that Mordecai is my fifth great-grandfather. Now, if we go back real fast here, so we have two more generations to talk about. The very first one was one came in 1637. Samuel Lincoln. When he left England, he was an apprentice weaver. When he passed away, and do not ask me the year he passed away, I don't remember it right off, he was a master weaver, an owner of 3 ships, and he owned a mill. His home is still standing up in Hingham, Massachusetts. His son was Mordecai Lincoln. That home, the last I heard, is still standing. And he was an iron master and the owner of 2 mills. His son, Mordecai, decided to leave Massachusetts, went to New Jersey, married, then relocated to Amity, Exeter Township, right outside Reading, where he was, according to records, he was a proprietor of the roads. He was a surveyor. He was an iron master. He was a farmer. And he had 3 mills. And yes, he did have slaves. And his 2 sons are the 2 sons of the family genealogy. John Lincoln, who left Pennsylvania, went to Virginia. And if anybody knows anything about Virginia, does anybody here know where Harrisonburg, Virginia is? Nobody knows where Harrisonburg, Virginia is. It's in the Shenandoah Valley. It's almost in the middle of the state, in the mountains. Right outside Harrisonburg, Virginia is where John settled, and his son Abraham left Pennsylvania with him. Abraham was sitting there, 2 farms, enjoying himself whenever his first cousin, Daniel Boone, who had left Pennsylvania and went down to North Carolina. Well, actually, Daniel Boone left Pennsylvania, stayed with the Lincolns for a spell, went and migrated from Virginia down to North Carolina, stayed in North Carolina for a season or 2, came back up to Virginia. He stayed for a spell, talked to Abraham Lincoln and said, You're very good at surveying. You're very good at farming. Come over to the Kentucky Territory, and the company I work for will actually give you a patent on some land. Abraham Lincoln went to Kentucky, looked at the area, said, I like it, so he went back to Virginia, gathered up his family, sold his 2 farms that he had, went back to Kentucky. Needless to say, we all know the rest of the story. Abraham Lincoln was killed by Indians. And left Thomas and his 3 sons, Thomas, Mordecai, and Josiah, as more or less orphans. Their mother was still alive. And according to Kentucky law, then, and I understand it still is today, if you do not have a will, a written stated will, that is recognized by the Commonwealth of the state of Kentucky, it goes by English law. And the English law designates and states that the oldest son receives all goods and properties of the father, not the daughter. Even if the daughter is the oldest, the daughter doesn't get it. If she's the only one there, if she is married, then her husband gets it. But in this case, Mordecai was the oldest son, and he got it, and he shared his property with his brother, his mother, and the word, nothing ever came down as what Thomas got or Thomas did not get. But then again, everybody knows Thomas married Nancy Hanks, and he had Sarah, Abraham, and Abraham had another brother. And that brother passed away when he was about 3 or 4 years old. And of course, Sarah actually married, and she died while giving birth to a little girl. So Abraham Lincoln without a brother or sister. So that's basically Abraham's genealogy on how we're connected that way. Now you go back, and we go back, so we got President Lincoln, Thomas Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, and John Lincoln. John's brother is Mordecai Lincoln. Well, Mordecai was actually out in Reading, PA, Berks County, and he served as a quartermaster during the Revolutionary War. And his son Abraham, who's the next one down on my line, was a private in Captain Brevettson's militia during the Revolutionary War. And his son, now, Mordecai, left, settled in Dauphin County, actually on Water Street in Harrisburg. And his son Benjamin migrated a little bit further west to Fayette County, Pennsylvania. Benjamin actually talked to his father, wrote to his father, and said, Dad, you should see the mountains out here in western Pennsylvania. They're beautiful. It's nothing like being in Harrisburg. It's nothing like out being east. And it's not like being close to Philadelphia or being in Philadelphia. It's beautiful. And you don't have that many people. Mordecai went out west. Mordecai is settled in Fayette County, which you now know is right outside Uniontown, Pennsylvania. So you got Mordecai, Benjamin. Benjamin had a son, Mordecai. Mordecai had a son, Mordecai. Mordecai had a son, Mordecai. Then Mordecai had a son, and you never guess what he named him. Yeah, he did have a son by the name of Mordecai, but that's another part of my family. My great-grandfather, Mordecai, the last Mordecai, was William Edward Rose Lincoln. And William Edward had a son, Carl, and that Carl had a son, Carl. And that gentleman happens to be my father. So that is the genealogy. But it also comes down to a lot of things. If you look at the occupancy